Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I am your co host, Annie Morell.
And I am your other co host, Ryan Saylor. Today we get to begin our project all over again with a new chosen director for spooky season, October, Halloween, whatever you want to say. We have Osgood Perkins, and today is the Blackcoat's daughter. Here's a clip.
Remember I told you that you reminded me of somebody? Well, you reminded me of her, my daughter. She'd be right about your age by now. We lost her 9 years ago. 9 years, tomorrow, actually.
That was from the Blackcoat's daughter, aka February. Obviously, we had a grand time with Paul Thomas Anderson, but I was very excited to start a new director. For those of you that have joined us along the way, welcome to, I guess, a new season. That's at least how I number them on Spotify. This will be rated as season 3. I don't know if that shows up anywhere, but on my uploads they say that. Just a bit of housekeeping in a couple ways before we begin. Yes, we are completionists. No, that hasn't changed. But Osgood Perkins, or Oz Perkins, as I'll be referring to him from this point forward, doesn't actually have much in between his feature films. So there will only be 1 week where that affects us. Otherwise, we will be just going through the features as they come. Secondly, his debut is kind of up for debate. Annie and I texted about this. Essentially, objectively, The Blackcoat's Daughter is his debut. However, due to a long period of gestation, the wide release on the film actually ended up coming after his second film released. So for our purposes, there was a limited release of The Blackcoat's Daughter first. It was made first. We're looking at films like all in a row and seeing how they affect a director's career, so we start with Blackcoat's Daughter. With all that out of the way, this was my first viewing. I think it was for you as well. Yes?
Yes, it was indeed. What did you think of it? I'm so...
You want to just start there?
I do want to start there.
So... yes, this is a very divisive film. I knew that going into it. I knew that some people adore this thing, some people loathe this thing, and a lot of people are kind of in the middle. I'm kind of in the middle. I respect a lot of what it's going for. I could see kind of the ambition of the narrative trying to weave this massive thing together that, keeps the audience in the dark for so long and finally reveals itself. But yeah, the problem is it keeps you so in the dark that I found myself almost uninvested for a large portion of the runtime. But I was able to mostly trust the process. I did enjoy finally when it came together. I think some of the filmmaking techniques are a little, I don't know, I don't want to be too harsh, but it's definitely a debut in the clearest sense. There's some shot reverse shot reliance for conversations where just the talks go on and nothing's filmed any kind of interestingly, and I said, wow, all right. All that to say, I think it does come together in a nice way, and I think the puzzle box is fun. And though I won't spoil anything for Longlegs, which, yeah, that's my one experience with Oz Perkins prior to this, I could see the seeds planted here that ended up over there. Mm-hmm. So I certainly enjoyed it for what it was, but yeah, I definitely didn't love this thing. What about you?
I finished that, and I was like, I cannot wait to record this episode just so that I can know, hopefully, why anyone liked this.
Oh, no.
Not okay. And that does sound really harsh. And a lot of what you're saying, I agree with. I think I just maybe feel even more strongly about it. About, like, specifically, you were talking about how much we're kept in the dark in this one, to the point that, yeah, I was like, why do I care about what happens to any of these characters?
Mm-hmm.
Not only like was I not invested in the characters, but I felt like so much. I think my biggest complaint about the movie is that I felt that so many moments of where I was like, clearly we're meant to feel suspense in this moment. This is a suspenseful moment. But I felt like I didn't have enough information about what was happening within the story for it to be a suspenseful moment. Not to get into too many specifics too early, but specifically there's a moment with the character of Joan where like Bramford is mentioned, and at that point I'm like, why is this suspenseful? Like why are we freaking out about this? Why is she freaking out about this? And a lot of the suspenseful moments seem to be leaning so heavily on the score, to the point where I feel that if you took out the score, like, this wouldn't be a horror movie necessarily.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I guess I think this is a good opportunity before we get too into it to say we are a full spoiler podcast.
Whoops.
No, I mean, we haven't said anything crazy yet, but yeah, if you're not into that, click away. And immediately on that note, you can't know Joan's motivation when meeting her, because that would ruin the film. And I mean, you can't stay with Kat during the first part of the film, because that also ruins the puzzle box. So I get the setup, and I don't know that I have an easy fix, but I think, and I did think about this, I think what I would do is start the film with Joan, lean in more to this like girl on the run, nowhere to go narrative, so that you just have that to grab onto, even if you don't know what she's running, well, to, actually. Yeah, and then, I don't know, maybe just trim down the Rose stuff, or have that be flashbacks, within the parents' story there. I don't know, but I think that's the way to get the audience to the end goal and not have them fall asleep.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think starting with Joan and immediately revealing, that those are Rose's parents. Like, I don't think that's a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the tension and suspense within the film is found in whether Rose is going to live or not. And they do still, about halfway through, I think, reveal that. But I guess that comes with the reveal of Kat and Joan being the same person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a way, absolutely, that you establish. I think I would have appreciated establishing it as two different time periods, rather than doing this kind of, like, each part of the film has a title card of one of the girls' names. So we start with Rose, and then it goes to Joan, and then it's Kat. And first of all, I didn't feel like that was a device that needed to be used, because it's not looking, just from their point of view for this part of the story, or like getting their side of things necessarily. So I was kind of like, why do we, whereas like I'm thinking of, I guess mild spoilers for Weapons, but if you saw Weapons in theaters, like that was very intentional. You got new character and plot information from the character that the title card announced each time. And I just felt like, why are we even doing this in this film? I just think it was a weird choice to start with, because I actually had to run it back to the beginning to rewatch the beginning sequence, because I didn't fully understand, which is the point. I understand a lot of this is like obfuscation, but the film starts with Kat in bed, like having a nightmare ? And it kind of flashes in between her twitching in bed and this weird sequence where like her dad shows up, and there's a mangled, burnt out car that probably has her mom. You see some like hair coming out of the car, and you understand that her parents, well, I guess her mom has died. Yeah, even that, I was like, well, what is this for? Like, why do I need to know this at the start?
So in retrospect, what happens is she has a premonition of her parents' death because she's possessed already when the film starts, at least in league with the demon. I don't know that she has powers or whatever, but yeah, she has this premonition, and it comes true. And I think it's just, it is a tone setter, because the film's thematic content is all about isolation, right? Being alone during Christmas break is like being possessed by a demon, is more or less the thesis statement of the film.
Yeah, I wrote down, it's the holdovers for spooky goth girls.
Yes, I agree. I think just starting with a very isolating act, like watching your parents die in a car crash, is just to set up that through line and theme is the idea. I'm not saying it's the best ever, but I think that's what it's going for.
Not to talk too much about Paul Thomas Anderson, and obviously
it is a tough act to follow. It was a little unfair to Perkins.
It's a tough act to follow, but I feel like, I think about, starting with Hard Eight, his debut, movie. And yeah, I remember you saying when we recorded for that, I'm not sure I see like the great director that we got
Sure.
from this. And I feel the same about this, where I've seen Longlegs and The Monkey, and that's why I suggested Osgood Perkins. I was really impressed with those films, and we'll get into that when we get there. But yeah, this feels like, wow, I really would not have necessarily seen the potential based on this film.
Yeah.
Because it does just feel both confusing and pretty like generic to me. Like there wasn't any standout directorial choice.
Yeah, visually it's pretty drab. And there are a couple cool things. I like the way the demon or the devil or whatever is portrayed. Like I like that shadow figure that we first see in a reflection, where you're kind of like, is that what that's supposed to be? Like, and then obviously it's more clear later. I liked that. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just felt very like micro budget, like something you'd see from a brand new filmmaker at a festival, which maybe that's what this was. So I wish he found more creative things to do, especially in the conversations. Go on and on with some relatively weak performances. I think our leads, I guess in this case, referring to Kat and Joan's actresses, I thought they did well enough, but most of the others are kind of falling apart.
I even think, like, I was surprised at Kiernan Shipka's performance, and I absolutely think it was a directorial issue, because I think about what this came out in 2015, and she's coming off of Mad Men, like that's right when Mad Men is wrapping up. Like, she is a good actress, and that is my very first note, like, oof. And I think in general everyone is acting not like a human for so much of this. And I understand she's possessed. Like, I get that. That factor. That's not what I'm talking about. Just the normal, like, human interaction scenes of meeting with the headmaster, or when Joan and the father of Rose have their conversations together. Like, none of it felt normal to me, and not in a horror movie way.
I mean, I think you're getting at probably why the film didn't work for you. I'd say there has to be a level of intentionality to those choices, but so much of horror is towing the line of absurdity, and it can become very funny. And I'm sure, we've both seen horror films where it's unintentionally hilarious, and that's not what this is doing, obviously. But yeah, if you toe the line wrong, I mean, what is trying to be scary becomes distracting. What's trying to be otherworldly becomes seemingly bad acting. So I think a lot of the choices did not pay off for you.
I will say, because I know I've been very negative so far, and I did see a few things that I liked. Going back to, you were talking about the design of the devil or the demon. Yeah, absolutely my favorite part of the film, because it's shadowy. We never see a face, which I think is so smart, both in a budgetary way and just a suspense horror way. And it's this weird kind of horned / eared, like it's almost giant bunny like. I think I even saw someone on Letterboxd compare it to the bunny from Donnie Darko, which is a cool nod if that was on purpose or inspired by that. And it was the scariest part for me. I was like, that's really terrifying. And then specifically, I think there's one really great shot where we see the devil in the reflection of like bathroom tiles.
Yeah.
I do think there's moments that really hit well, like when Kiernan Shipka's character Kat says, "You had your chance," just kind of really, really out of nowhere to Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Chilling. I was like, oh, that's scary. So there's potential. It just feels so messy.
Yeah. No, I think we agree on that.
There's a lot of unearned suspense. Like early in the movie, I think a great example of this is someone setting the table. I think it might be Rose. And the music gets very, very scary, but like it's literally just a shot of like a spoon being straightened out on a table.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, it sounds like we had similar problems with the film, but just that I felt less strongly. And I think some of what off-put you did work for me as otherworldly horror, whatever. But yeah, it's got issues.
I almost wish, I'm just going to be referencing other horror movies now. I wish that we had gotten more of a bait and switch. I think it was semi-attempted with Rose's dad potentially being a creepy character to Joan. You have that scene with the two of them where he comes into her motel room that I guess he dropped her off in because she was asleep in his back seat. And she has just taken a shower. She's like in this towel in a very vulnerable state. And it's nothing of what he's saying is creepy in any way. He's not being creepy. But of course, that setup alone, those set of circumstances is ripe for horror, for suspense, for a creepy guy to do something creepy. And I almost wish that had been more at the beginning of the film, because then I feel like that would make it more like, if you've seen Barbarian, this is at the beginning of the movie, so I feel like it's not really a spoiler, but like they do a kind of bait and switch with a guy showing up at someone's Airbnb, and you think like, oh, he's the guy. He's gonna be what is scary about this, and then it's not. And I kind of wish it had done that to start out with.
Yeah, I think they were trying to do that. I think those scenes were kind of intense just because, yeah, this girl's so vulnerable, and like this guy's wife keeps referencing that he's done this before, so it's like, is he actually helpful? Is he just kind of, weird? Like, what's going on? So I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's no big scene that like ends that, but I don't know. I thought that worked.
Oh, I'm not saying it didn't work. I think just the like placement of it within the scheme of things maybe didn't work for me. My man loves his rule of thirds. There's just like so many shots where it's like a person in like the left or right side of the screen, and then like 2/3 of it is like blank. So we're learning.
That's what I was saying. He sticks to those shots, specifically for the conversations, and it gets very monotonous.
Yeah.
One thing that I do want to talk about that I thought was interesting. The end of this film comes together in a way that subverts the kind of stereotypical possession genre, in that our lead, there was safety, I guess, in the possession. This film does end with her being exorcised. Very anticlimactically, honestly. It just kind of goes away, which is intentional. I actually like that, but anyway, we learn that Joan, who is a grown-up cat, has sought out Rose's parents to kill them to, hopefully impress the devil, to say, look, I'm still, even though you're gone, I'm still doing this work on your behalf. And then she kills them for nothing. The devil does not come back to her. And so we get that final shot of her mourning the fact that she's still alone. And we close on that theme of isolation. And yeah, I mean, I guess even just from the way I'm talking, it did work for me. I thought it was interesting. But what do you think about that ending? Do you think it's as tragic as that character says, or is she so misguided? Or
to me, one of the big themes of the film is when adults fail a child. I think the whole process of her realizing that her parents aren't going to come and pick her up, this is when she's still Kat and not Joan, could have been, not that they handled it poorly, like the adults around her. I think they're pretty minimal characters, but that it was just like, oh, just wait around with this other girl and it'll be fine. Your parents are like not even being honest with the child. Kind of, she clearly believes that something has happened to her parents, like whether that's true or not. And the fact that they weren't like, let's make sure they're alive, and if we're not hearing from them, then being really honest with what is happening, I think would be more helpful to a kid like that, rather than essentially just like gaslighting her that like, no, your parents are going to come, forcing her to basically seek out a different kind of parental figure that is the devil. Like that, at least that was my interpretation of it. You were talking about her feeling like so alone and trying to get back to him at the end. And I think it becomes a parental figure. And I think it's pretty well baked into the movie, because she treats the devil on the phone like it is her parents, essentially. And he calls her like as if she is his child. So I think it has, I have such a hard time in general, one, connecting to really supernatural horror like this, and two, like finding a meaning that is not inherently religious, and maybe that is the point of it. And because I am not a religious person, like it just doesn't connect with me as much, because I think to me it's like, yeah, the devil abandons her, and what does she have? She has all these awful things that she's done, and trying to befriend the devil like will ultimately get you nowhere, and lead you down a horrible path, which is, not a particularly radical message. But yeah, I think that's my best articulation of what I think the ending is trying to say, of like, if you choose evil, like evil is not going to show up for you, no matter what.
Yeah, as we talked about before on here, I am Christian, and I disagree. I mean, I think the film specifically is using possession as a means to an end almost. I don't think there's any real religious message here or spiritual message much at all. I mean, yeah, you're right that there's a good and evil thing, but this is that era of, well, what was it called? I think we've gotten away from this phrase, but at the time people said it was like enlightened horror, or like elevated horror. That's what people were calling, stuff like this for a while there. So yeah, this is from that same era where the real evil is depression. The real evil is anxiety. In this case, the real evil is isolation. So yes, there's this demon storyline, and maybe it's just that it comes back in his later films, that it even noted to me like, oh, I do wonder about Perkins' own religious beliefs. But if I were just to see this film, I don't think he has a strong message here to say about like the goodness of God or anything. I think all he wants to talk about here is isolation. I think the one element of the religious system, iconography, whatever, within the film that I thought was interesting was, instead of a haunted house or just wherever these films normally take place, we're at a private Catholic school. And so I thought there might be a comment there on, feeling alone within what should be a very welcoming community. But other than that, no, I don't think there's much about spirituality or, a religious message at all.
Yeah, I can see that being alone in a welcoming community. I like that. You think about not only how the adults treat her once everyone leaves, but also how Rose treats Kat. She goes off and meets with her boyfriend and just kind of tells her to stay out of her stuff, stay out of her room, and it's like she's the burdensome younger sister to her, and even though she's been tasked with keeping her company and just watching over her as the younger kid, as I think she's supposed to be 14, Kat is.
Something like that.
So yeah, I like that interpretation. That makes me like it a little more, to be honest.
Okay, there you go.
I did want to ask you, now having heard kind of what your thematic interpretation is, do you think that Rose being pregnant like has any bearing on the story, or is it just a vehicle for her to have extra stakes?
I'm glad you bring that up. I was kind of thinking about that myself. If this is what they were going for, it didn't totally work for me, but I think the idea was, she's also alone. Like she can't, I mean, she's lying to her parents so that they like come later to try to figure out what she's going to do about this pregnancy. So I think it's just, it's meant to be a parallel story. To what end? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Too bad. My big note that I maybe have already said is just the intentionality of it all is not quite there for me. Some of it just seemed very much like, might as well throw this in. I think what I'm trying to get at is there were scenes that went on too long, certainly, both in just the pacing of the dialogue and just I didn't think that there was a real purpose for the length of some of the scenes, like the dialogue scenes. And maybe that's also me subconsciously picking up on what you were saying about how two-person scenes were filmed, that it's just this kind of ping-pong repetitive back and forth and not anything, more visually interesting than that.
Yeah. I guess I will say, I think the idea with those shots is that everyone's always alone. Much like, the films about isolation, all of these shots have people alone. So in conversations, it's always one person talking, cut to the other person alone talking. Like, I get what he's going for. I think it just is a bit much, that's like all he does for so much of the
And that
film.
explains too why not only are they alone, but it tends to be like the figure with just like a wide blank expanse of some kind, a wall or whatever,
Right.
the snow. Yeah, just like the visual isolation, which I like that. I do. Yeah, and maybe it's I don't know. I feel like I'm being too hard on this film now.
I don't think you're being too hard on it. I think it's just there's a lot of ideas here. Unfortunately, most of them don't pay off to what they should. And I think the biggest one is that you make it, I think it's like almost an hour into this film, I'd say. Maybe I caught on late, but it's about an hour into this film that you like even really understand the full narrative. I don't mean the like Kat and Joan being the same person, but just even like everyone's individual stakes finally are revealed about that point.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to pull off. Even the most famous puzzle box films, something like Memento is probably the most famous puzzle box film at this point. If you don't care at all about the puzzle, there's still this man searching for who killed his wife. Yeah. Whereas this, if you're not interested in solving how these three stories intersect and what it all means and who's possessed and all the stuff, there's no easy thing to grab onto.
Maybe that is my main issue, because I think there is opportunity for expansion of the greater story surrounding, like, other than the puzzle itself.
Mm-hmm.
The referencing of the girls kind of gossiping about, like, oh, there are these bald witches doing satanic things, or they're talking about this rumor, like, she's bald, her eyebrows aren't real, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think, like, give me more of that, or give me more of characterize the staff, or I don't know. I don't know what the exact fix is, but
I genuinely think the fix is to make present day Joan the main story. Start there, have it be about this girl on the run, and then don't like separate the film into segments. Through flashbacks, show us what happened to these parents' daughter. That's how you'd interact with it, and from that reveal, Kat across time until you get back to the present day. I think that would be, yeah, I think that would do it, because I think the reason this triple chapter narrative is there is to bring attention to the puzzle that Perkins clearly was proud of. It's just that's not where the film should start.
Yeah. And maybe the purpose, I think the idea of the title cards is so that you really, because like Rose and Kat, even though they have different title cards, are obviously in each other's stories, and because it's not really, like, there are times in Rose's section, I'm pretty sure, where we're just with Kat. Rose is not there at all, or we're just with other characters. And to me, so maybe it's just like, hey, pay extra attention to Rose through this section. This stuff's important. And then, like, pay extra attention to Joan. Because I think even Joan's whole section isn't just Joan.
Sure.
And, like, granted, she's the same, like, she is Kat. So I guess, there's that. But yeah, it's 3 sections and 2 of them are the same girl. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you for your rewrite, your reboot that you're gonna write and produce.
This is neither here nor there, I guess, but this film has 2 titles, and I don't think I like either of them.
Yeah. I do think February is the worst, or worse of the 2.
Okay.
Because if it's Christmas break, then why is it February?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's hilarious. What break are they taking?
Aren't they taking Christmas break?
I thought that's what they said. Huh. It feels maybe it's just, well, but what breaks in February? What break are they taking? Yeah, all right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I like the vagueness of it. And Blackcoat's daughter, I don't like either title, I think, is my point. Because, yeah, what break could possibly happen in February? I get that February, like, I like the implication of that. That month is, like, such a lonely month, especially if you don't have anyone, like, romantically. But, like, it's the dead of winter, like, the warmth of the holidays is completely worn off. The warmth of the excitement of the new year is completely worn off, and you're kind of stuck to live whatever your normal life is. So I like the sentiment of it, in relation to the story that we see. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You were glad they renamed it Heart 8, and I'm glad they renamed it Blackcoat's daughter.
Yeah, it's I guess what Blackcoat, what it might be going for is like she is in the loosest way a daughter of the church, maybe, because she's living at this, you know, Catholic boarding school.
Mm-hmm.
So, or, and then I guess in another way, like our demonic figures all in black, she's also his daughter.
Yeah,
so it's a double meaning, I guess.
He's wearing a coat. Maybe
he's wearing a coat. There you go. So yeah, it's anyway, I don't think either title's great, but I don't know what I'd name the film either. Just because we discussed Heart 8 versus Sydney, I wanted to ask which one you prefer, and yeah, it sounds like Blackcoat's daughter by a while, because I too do not know. I mean, the film does take place in February. That's on the calendar, but I didn't process that what break happens in February. Who's to say? Strange. It's hard. I mean, at first I was thinking like, oh, am I just feeling this way because we just watched all this PTA? But we watched, you know, respectively a bunch of different films within those 10 weeks that weren't just PTA. You and I both watched new things. I mean, you talked about Toxic Avenger. I talked about Long Walk. I mean, we it's not like we were just watching PTA. So I don't think that's a fair dismissal. I think that's just me trying to be nice. So I think there are a lot of issues with this film. I do see, you know, if I were to see this and not know it was going anywhere, I think I do see potential, but I don't know that I would be rushing out to see whatever this director next made.
Yeah.
So
does that mean you would recommend the film?
Yeah, I felt that coming. I think I recommend it to, you know, horror fans that have exhausted a lot of the genre. I don't think it's... I mean, yeah, in the same era of film, you get much better work that's doing a lot of the same stuff. Like, yeah, The Witch, even Hereditary, which, you know, obviously a bit different, but it's worth seeing to see where Perkins started, which is, you know, where we're at. And I think overall I actually did like it, but I almost like it for what I imagine it could be. So that doesn't feel like a strong recommendation. Take all of that and decide, you know, if you want to watch it or not.
Yeah.
But I guess if I have to say yes or no, yes, but just barely.
Okay.
You? This
was ominous ambiance, the movie. You know, I think no.
Yeah, I was gonna be pretty surprised if you said yes after this whole discussion.
Yeah, I just feel bad now. I know where this, I don't know, he'll be fine. He's the son of Anthony Perkins, which is big shoes to fill. I'm sure that's very nerve-wracking to enter the space that your father is such an icon from. But yeah, no, I think he has already. I know he has better than this in his filmography. I think if you're like a horror historian or if you're a completionist like us as far as directors, it's, you know, it's not a bad movie. Like,
no,
it's not going to get half a star from me on Letterboxd.
Right.
There are things that I liked about it, and there were times where I was scared, and, you know, that's the nuts and bolts of what horror should be. Is scary. So, and it's a low threshold, as maybe we'll figure out more and more, or I'll reveal more and more for me to be scared. But still,
yeah, I guess just briefly, that is worth talking about. Like, I think part of why I liked this more, though I enjoy walking away from film being like, oh wow, that actually got to me, like that got under my skin. If I am 0% scared, but I thought it was a good movie, I'll say like that was a good horror movie. So maybe it's also just a little bit of what you're looking for from the film.
I do think, yeah, it depends on what you want. Why do you go to movies? You know, why do you watch them? If you like a puzzle box, I don't think this is the worst choice you could make.
Yeah, although we've definitely, if you're this far and you haven't seen the film, we've revealed the full puzzle. So
yeah.
If you like a puzzle box where all of the pieces fit together because you already have it solved when it's given to you, go ahead and check out.
If you love rolling up to Goodwill and purchasing someone else's fully done puzzle.
Yeah, well, there's one missing piece, I guess. You know, it's somewhere else in this Goodwill it says why Rose was pregnant. So
and why it's
you can grab that piece and and why it's February. If you find those things out, feel free to message us on something. We have an email, retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com. You can comment on Spotify like Reb did. Thanks, Reb. They said we're doing a great job, and we appreciate them. I'm also on Letterboxd at Ryan Loves Film.
And I'm there at Annie Morell. And you know what? Next week, we'll be getting to a movie I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. No expectations.
Has a great name.
I am the pretty thing that lives in the house. Yes, the name is very good. I have high hopes for this one. And you know, it's October. We're watching spooky movies. I'm having a blast either way.
Yeah. Also, do you want to see my thoughts on Smashing Machine when I inevitably put those up?
Or my thoughts on Anemone, which I'm about.
Oh, there
to
you go.
Tonight.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard all kinds of things, so I'm curious to see what
Me
you say.
too.
We're on TikTok at retro_cin, CIN. You can also find us at Instagram at that handle, where we're dabbling in graphic design these days. So check that out.
Yeah, go like my graphic design. I worked really hard on it.
Whether you're watching Osgood Perkins filmography or watching us on TikTok, happy watching.